This maple has some really nice figure that I'd like to bring out. If I just put a clear finish on, it'll bring it out some. But to make it really dramatic, I want to color it. And there are several things I could use. I could use an oil-based stain, could use just oil. But what I'm going to do is use a dye. And dye handles a little bit differently than the others, but it'll be interesting to keep the dye from leaking over onto the top, which I don't want. I'm going to protect it with a base coat of shellac that I'm going to pad on that will protect the finish. The thing about the shellac is I can always take it off later. But since I'm planning on ultimately a French polish for this thing, the shellac base coat will be fine. French polish is actually just a technique for applying shellac. And one of its virtues is that it dries almost instantly because it's going on such a thin coat, which leads to another great virtue is that your finishing room doesn't have to be in pristine condition. It would take a lot to get this room in pristine condition. It's got dust in here from the last 4 or 5 years of multiple activities. I don't know as I dare look in some of the corners. So I'm going to start with a 50% mix of wine, dark wine red. And you can see how it's bringing out the figure already. This is just the beginning. It's pretty amazing how it brings the grain out. The way the dye process works is you put it on and then you sand it off. Do it two or three times. I'll probably stop at 2. And what it does is bring out the grain. So I put in 1 coat of the dye, and after the first sanding, here's what we have. So it should really pop after the next sanding. Time for the final coat on this thing of the dye. This is where the magic happens. Pretty cool. I'm just adding a base coat of shellac to protect the instrument from getting dirty during the rest of the manufacture of it. But even this preliminary coat is really bringing the figure to life. And it's going to be some handsome when it's done. I like to add a little decoration to the end of the sound box. This is where the strap peg is going to go. Exacting work. I've got my 3 pieces cut, and they go right in. So now I have to do is figure out how to clamp them. Some blue tape and a 10-pound weight. We'll see how it goes. I have some of that low-tack paper on here to protect the finished sides, so I don't want to scratch those up. I used the same rig to cut the channel for the purfling and banding as I used to trim the edges of the soundboard. The channel looks really good, but it could be tricky getting around that sharp little corner. I need some banding material for the sides of the instrument, and I've got this old walnut veneer that's almost 40,000th of an inch thick. That's just about right, but it's in sheets that are 8 inches wide. So how am I going to do this? Well, let's take a look. First off, I need one good edge. So I've got the veneer sandwiched between a board with a nice piece of MDF with a straight edge on top. I'm going to put these 5-pound weights on here that will hold it from slipping, and use my old number 8 Bailey as a shooting plane. It's set for a fine cut, and I can hear when it's taking a cut the whole length. That's good. Now that I have one straight edge, all I have to do is make a parallel cut. And I'm going to use this old veneer saw. It's not really a saw at all. It's a multi-pointed knife. So I don't know what the point of the multi-points is, but this is the way they make them. First thing is to set this edge for a parallel cut. I'm going for 7/32 of an inch, which is a little bit bigger than my final dimension, because I want some stock to be able to scrape it down to size after it's glued in. This is a job where it would definitely be helpful to have 3 or 4 hands. Yowza! And like magic, the tape disappears. Here's a closer look at that corner I'm concerned about. I left these ends long so that I could trim them and get a nice fit. This one's reasonably easy because it's square. The idea is to split the angle of that point. That looks reasonably good. Now I have to make this one match. Thank you. Here's that corner where I wanted to make sure the purfling layers met neatly. I think I've got a winner. I've masked out the areas for the fingerboard and the bridge that I don't want to get finish on, so I can get a good glue up later. So now we'll start polishing the top. Well, this project is rapidly coming to an end. Barring any mishaps, I should be done in a week or so. I still have to make the neck, the bridge, the fingerboard, do the final assembly and setup. 3, maybe 4 more videos. If you've enjoyed this series and perhaps picked up a useful trick or two, consider becoming a patron. Head on over to patreon.com/harperswood to sign up. Patrons get early access to my videos and some exclusive content as well. Thanks for watching. See you next time.